Jeremy, guess what?
What?
We have a special guest today.
I know, I'm so excited. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
let's.
Hi,
Jeremy,
everybody. Welcome to Everything Energy with Jeremy and Tina. Hi, Tina.
hello. Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Good. Oh my gosh.
Do
We're
you
so
see?
excited.
Do you see
We're
who's here?
so,
Oh, she's over here.
yeah, she's there. She's there. We have our special guest today, our dear friend, Jennie Richau, and she is one of the coolest people we know.
Right.
And we're going to talk to her a lot about the things that she does for a living and how she integrates her work into her personal life and all of that fun stuff. Hey, Jennie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having
I
me. I'm nervous.
you're why? You don't have to be nervous. It's just us.
You know how silly we are.
I will speak when spoken to, so I'll curb my enthusiasm for this.
Well, you don't have to. We're kind of crazy anyway, so it's fine. Um, so the first question we want to ask is, what is it that you do for work,
Mhm.
and how did you get into what you do?
Okay, so I'm a real estate agent, associate broker, and I got into real estate 7.5 years ago, back when I was living in Salt Lake, and I was at this job where I was a restaurant manager, and I was felt like I was beating my head against a wall, and I felt like I had more to offer the world than calculating the cost of fry sauce. So I decided to take my passion for looking at properties on the internet into real life and just become a real estate agent. And I had a good friend at the time, a couple of good friends who really kind of pushed me to move that timeline forward in my life because I was like, oh, that's something I'll do later in life. And I had a couple of friends who were like, why wouldn't you just do that now? Like, what's
Hmm.
stopping you? So I did it, and I got my start there in Utah. And shortly after that, I would say during that time, Feng Shui was the thing that would keep me up at night. It was the curiosity that, well, how come we can't put a mirror on this wall? And, why does this room need to be a certain thing or whatever? And so I would sit there at night when I couldn't sleep, like looking at my phone, just Googling all these like little questions, right? And reading all about feng shui. And I was so confused because there's so much conflicting information online. Obviously, there's different schools of feng shui. And so, and one person's opinion differs from another. And I just thought, my gosh, like, what am I reading here? How do I make sense of this? And so I thought, I'm just going to deep dive because that's what I do. And I just jump off the diving board into things. And so I thought, okay, well, where am I going to go get my feng shui certification? And I was looking at all these different places, and lo and behold, there's Tina right in Salt Lake. And I was like, no way, I can get this done in Salt Lake. I don't even have to leave town. So we met for tea, and we said we were going to meet for tea, but really it was giant coffees. And we chatted, and I ended up taking her program and got a feng shui certification through Tina. And so now I combine the two. I combine feng shui with my real estate practice, and I work with my clients to find them the right kind of property that's going to have good energy for them, good energy flow, and support their goals. And I also work with the sellers, of course, to set their home up in a way that will sell quickly and for the highest value.
That's incredible. You're so cool. You're so cool. Oh, Tina, you're muted.
I was just worried in case I was going to cough because you know me, my history with coughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a fascinating person, and I wish we had time to talk about like all of your world travels, and you're not afraid to go off and to some who go country you can't pronounce the name of by yourself and explore, and I think that's so cool. You and I talked the other day just to catch up because we hadn't talked for a while, and I'm curious how you like. Do you market that? I mean, real estate agents, everybody knows about realty, right? That's a given. So people know what that process might look like, or they need to write a contract with somebody. Are you like part of your promo stuff or on your website, does it say that you integrate feng shui into the services that you offer?
It does, and oddly enough, Tina, most people don't care. Like, I thought everyone would be
Hmm.
like, "Oh my gosh, that's the coolest," because I think it's the coolest.
Wow.
Most people don't care. Most people aren't into the woo woo, which is fine. Not everybody needs to be into it. But I do have on my main website, I do have that I'm a certified feng shui practitioner, feng shui consultant, I called it. And so they can read a little bit about that in my bio. I also have a separate website for it called the woowooagent.com. And that's a little more focused on the purely the feng shui aspect that I bring to each transaction. And then I do marketing. A lot of it's centered around the animal for the year. So I put out a publication each year that talks about, the dragon energy, what that's going to mean. What does that mean in general? But what could that bring to real estate this year? And
Mm,
so I have it online, and it's a mailer that I send out, and also just I have print copies that I hand out to people that I meet along the way. So
hmm. Wow. How do you have like any stories you can share with us on like how you've applied feng shui, whether they knew it or not, and how it benefited the sale or the purchase of a home or the whole journey for somebody? Because I
yeah, I
just
mean,
believe that feng shui can just make the whole journey different, the
it
whole
Yeah.
totally,
experience.
yeah. So a lot of times, I get clients that just don't care. They're like, whatever, just get the house sold. And so
Hmm.
I'm there in the background, and I usually ask them to write an intention letter. And I have this little 6x6 square metallic envelope, and I put a little piece of paper with it. I'm like, write whatever you want to write on this with good intention, right? And then we put that in the northwest corner, and they're looking at
Why
me
the
like, what do you?
northwest corner?
That's for your helpful people. That's your helpful people connection. And we need helpful people if we're going to sell the house, right? So
Yes.
um, we need those people to come into our world, whether that be the agent or the buyer or someone along the way that connects us to the buyer. And
Hmm.
so there's something like, I do that. There's always the crystals I put around, which I realize isn't directly feng shui, but it's something I believe helps the energy of a space. Of course, I work with the staging company to make sure that we're kind of getting the right stuff in the spaces and setting it up properly. If somebody's living in the home, we have a long talk about what it needs to look like and what they need to do in preparation ahead of time to get, declutter and create space and create the feeling of openness in there. One of the
Mm,
biggest things I see people have just overstuffed closets and overstuffed cabinets. And well, okay, that's okay in the photograph because you're not seeing that on Zillow or wherever people are looking. But when people walk into the house and they open the closet, and if even
Mm.
if it's a big closet, if it's full, people
mhm,
look at that. And go, oh, there's not space for us here, or we're going to outgrow this house the way they did. So
mhm,
we have to think about what messages we're sending. But it's also in the words that we use. When you write the property description, I see a lot of property descriptions that are like 3 bedroom, 2 bath house. I know. I saw that. I searched for that. That's how I found your listing, right? But let's talk about the lifestyle they are going to experience while they're there and the sunsets that they'll see and, the natural light that pours into the kitchen in the mornings. And so I really try to focus those words on like feelings and feeling good in the space. Another thing I do is when an agent sets up a showing at the property, we have a little online platform. They go in, they don't have to call me. They just set up a showing. And I will call that agent ahead of time and say, hey, it looks like you scheduled a showing for tomorrow afternoon. What questions do you have about the property before you visit? And that sets the tone with the
mm,
agent that I'm here, I'm helpful. We care that you are, that you have your questions answered before you go in and during your visit. And they always appreciate that I call. But I believe that setting that tone and setting that precedent for the relationship is super important. I also make sure that I set up a page, a little document that explains the sort of the benefits and the features and the upgrades and the updates to the home, because some of that may not be visible, or some of it
mm.
you might not know that that air conditioner is only 2 years old because it's on the roof and you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so I always let that agent know, hey, in the MLS, there's this document you can access, but there's also a print copy in the home for you to take with your client. And providing that information on a positive note and a positive level and presented beautifully, I think just continues the
Mhm.
tone of we care and we want to come to terms with you and we want your experience here to be great.
Mm.
The whole time you've been talking, you are like I'm envisioning because I've seen you're really great at graphic design and art and presentation and all of these things that you're talking about. The details, the organization, really staying connected in good, clear communication. I want Are you open to sharing what your Chinese astrology and Western astrology chart is so that we can make a connection?
Yeah, the Western astrology, I only know Aries. I don't know any of the rising, falling, shooting stars of all of it. So Jeremy might
So
know that. I don't know that stuff.
I do. So you're an Aries sun, a Taurus rising, and a Virgo moon. So speaking of details, that Virgo moon
Mm,
really pays attention to all of the details. And that Taurus energy really kind of helps you to understand um, the mastery of abundance and also personal possessions, real
Mm.
estate energy. That's really, really great for all of those. And how about your Chinese astrology?
Yeah, day to year, I have a dragon, pig, dragon, rooster.
dragon, pig, dragon, rooster.
Wow.
So, and you're high metal in your chart, correct?
No, I'm high water.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
oh,
right. I always get that wrong too because I'm like,
mm-hmm.
it's that Virgo moon that has all of the
Oh,
things in a row
Mm-hmm.
that I'm
yeah.
like, I always assume that you have high metal.
Yeah,
My day
it's the
master
rooster.
yin water, and I have like 30 some percent water in my chart.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, that rooster's the one that is perfect in that line of work, right? Being
Mhm.
seen, connecting. It's that metal energy that you're talking about. So
Yeah.
that's really fascinating. Are you moving into a different luck pillar anytime soon?
I
Or are
don't
you
think
just
so. Yeah, I
okay?
don't think so. I think I'm kind of right in the middle of one right now.
Are you?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's about the time you realize you're in a 10-year luck pillar and you're like, oh, when is the next one coming? Because I'm
When is the
ready.
next one?
Like,
You're
oh,
halfway through.
Yeah. I think I'm about probably about 3 years till the next one, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
okay.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
So I'm curious about something. How do you integrate like Chinese astrology and feng shui into your personal life outside of real estate?
mm, well, creativity is something that's really important to me. And that rooster, very creative creature, but also, or I see the rooster as creative because of all the beautiful colors
Mm,
on the feather, right? And it's in
mhm.
the West, it's creativity. And so
Yeah.
when I bought the current condo that I have now, one of the reasons that I bought it, aside from like the awesome patio and built-in grill, is that whole side, all the whole west side of the condo had big windows. And so I get
Mm,
Mm.
all that west light. I love the sunsets. I love that sort of creative energy coming in. And my patio's right there. So to me, like I have my patio doors open all the time. I just love that good juju coming in on the west because I really wanted that creative energy coming in for me.
Have we
I love
noted that you live in Phoenix? Have we said
that.
that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so folks know, you're in Arizona. Are you still working out of Utah as a realtor?
Nope, nope. It was too much to keep up with both. And I felt like,
Mhm.
God, there's so much just in Phoenix. And to keep up with the nuances with both places was too much. So I've phased out of Utah and just focused solely on Phoenix now.
Mm.
So let me ask you, since you talked about applying, like using the animal to kind of promote and kind of explore how the animal year might influence the real estate market. How's this dragon shown up for the real estate market? Has it been as unpredictable in your world as it has been in mine?
I will say it's been very challenging. We've had very high interest rates this year, and that makes it very challenging for buyers. Then it also becomes challenging for the sellers because if buyers can't buy, how are the sellers going to sell? But there
Mhm.
are like really interesting opportunities mixed in because this ended up being an excellent year to purchase a property because you have a lot of inventory to choose from. And I'm speaking from a Phoenix market perspective. I can't speak for the whole country, but
Mhm.
you know, we have a lot of inventory to choose from right now, and people, they're having a hard time selling. So now's when you're going to get your deals and when you're going to have
Mhm.
the strongest negotiating power as a buyer. If you can afford the interest rates, I think they're about 6.5% right now. This is an excellent time to snap up a property. So there's opportunities. They're just not the opportunities we wanted or expected or are used to seeing. So I
Mm.
think it's a matter of kind of shifting our mind of like what we're looking for and how we're going to get to accomplish our goals. And it's still fine to sell a property this year. You just have to be realistic about what your price is like and what you're going to have to kind of do to attract that offer.
Yeah. Wow. That's too much
That's
metal for me to think about.
well, and just what you were saying just now, it totally describes the dragon. You just said it wasn't
Mhm.
what we were expecting, and that's that
Mhm.
unexpected flair that the dragon brings. So I love your approach to life. I've known you for a while, so in all aspects of your life, you're constantly looking for the opportunities, even if there is some difficult energy going on. And that's what I admire about you so much.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Aw.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what is your current why? Me and Tina like to talk about the current why as to what you're doing, and what is your current why? What keeps you doing what you're doing?
You know, real estate's a tough place to be, especially here in Phoenix. We have a lot of agents. We have way more agents per capita here than we did in Utah. So it's been harder to earn a living here, to be honest.
Mm,
And so, the thing that keeps me going is that every day is different. Every transaction is different. Every client's different. And I think there's so much interesting juice in that. You know,
mm,
every, there's never a dull moment. There's never, um, no two things are the same, right? You're looking at different properties for different people at different times of the year under different, lenses that you're trying to find things for. And there's just always something different happening. The market's always in flux. There were big changes in our industry this year as far as, compensation and paperwork and things like that. So there's been a lot to navigate this year. And I think it's one of the things that keeps me interested. And every time I think about, wow, should I just get a job, a 9 to 5 job? You know what? I just can't do the hours. I just can't sit at a desk.
mm,
I just can't sit in an office and do one thing and analyze data. I got to be out doing stuff. My favorite part of this job is meeting people, looking at properties, talking, to people at my open house, and just actually doing the hands-on work. I actually really struggle with the paperwork side because it's so tedious to me that I just can't stand to sit there and do it. So that gets neglected, and my broker's always kicking things back, like you missed a signature on this, page 4, line 72. And I'm like, of course I did, because I wasn't, focused on the things I should be focused on, like paperwork. So, I'm discovering more and more of my strengths and weaknesses in all of this, and the hands-on part is what I love and do best at. But it keeps me on my toes. And I think what another thing is, I love being able to educate my clients.
mm,
I think there's a lot of agents out there that will just say, "Oh, just do this or just do that." But if you're not telling the client what their options are, how do they know that they're making the right decision? And a big driver for
mhm,
me has been educating the client on what your options are, what is the long-term or short-term repercussions of the decisions that we're making along the way, and getting them to a point where they're making an informed decision. I think that's super important, and that's
mhm,
something that I focus a lot of time on, because I want people to understand. Before I was an agent, I bought properties, and quite frankly, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I just thought I knew everything, and I knew nothing. And I made decisions that, maybe were good or bad or whatever, but that was just all I had to go on at the time. And um, in some respects, kind of wish I had known more, or just that I
mhm.
had other options. I maybe still would have made the same choices, but I just didn't know any different.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Now, are you still hosting? Like, I remember when you were in Salt Lake, you'd host these events, and it seemed like to me they were educational, but there was
mhm.
beer involved or
I love
something.
beer. Yep. I come out of the craft beer world, so there has to be craft beer involved. I'm not really doing events like that anymore. I would absolutely, but I don't really do that as much anymore. I focus more on
Mhm,
the feng shui part of it, and less, and actually, to be honest, when I started in this business, I thought my clientele would be a lot of millennial first time buyers, right? Because I'm kind of, I
mm,
mean, I'm technically a millennial, but I'm, kind of right on the cusp there. And I thought, okay, well, I can relate to these people, right? They relate to me, I relate to them. But you know what? That ended up not really being my clientele. And I ended up with clientele that was a bit older. And maybe that's because my social circles were a little bit older than me. So I just ended up kind of with a client base that was different than what I had originally started and creating those events around. So, yeah, I kind of just have taken a different direction with it over the years.
Mm.
mm. So let me ask you, I don't know if you're in a place to typically we're like going to ask like, well, what do you have coming up? Like, do you have anything that's coming up that you want to talk about and share and let people know? Because I kind of
Nothing
know
really
something.
good to share. I am working on turning a passion into a business that has nothing to do with real estate. It's very creative and fun and playful. And it's a little too soon to reveal the secrets of it, but I
Okay.
can't wait to come back on your podcast when it's
Yes,
launched, talk
please
about the
do,
significance of it.
because we're so excited about it just like you are, and we can't wait to tell everybody what it is. So please, please come back on and share with us when you're ready to launch, because
Thank
we're ready to help you launch. It's gonna be so
thank
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being worked on now. Now is a kind of a critical time because I would like to launch. I will just hint that I would like to launch it in time for the Chinese New Year, Year of the Snake next year. It's an exciting one for me being here in
Wow.
Arizona where we have snakes. So, um, yeah, I'm excited for it, and I hope to stay on track with the launch. But right now is a critical time because getting samples and getting production, and holidays are in the
Mm.
mix. Yes, it's
So
crunch
this
time.
is kind of a new world for you.
It
Are
is.
you
Mm,
scared? Are you just that double dragon rooster like in pig? I'm just going all in. It doesn't
I'm
matter. We'll
going.
just see what happens.
I think my fear just comes out of sometimes I don't believe in myself enough, you know,
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah.
which is crazy because when I became an agent, I quit my job. I had a salary job that I just like quit, like literally just like walked out of, which wasn't how I intended to quit. I intended to give a proper notice, but I didn't. And, landed on my feet just fine. And in fact, doubled my income in that first year. And I was like, oh, why did I wait to do that? Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know why I'm doubting myself. But I think as we get older, we kind of realize what's at stake and we're maybe a little more aware
Mm.
of how hard it was to get to where we are now. And it's like, well, am I ready? What happens if I give that up, or how will I transition? And I think
Mhm.
the awareness we have as we get older is what holds us back, right?
Yeah.
mm.
We
I
kind of
can
lose that.
relate to that. I'm going through a lot of that right now. Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. What if, or what
Yeah.
direction do I keep doing what I'm doing? All of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Jen-
I think that a lot of people can relate to what you're talking about when it comes to what if and what's going to happen. Speaking of which, all of the crazy energy that's happening out there in the world today. What
Mhm.
do you think about what's going on in the world, and what would be your advice to as a remedy or as a cure or as something that would help people right now?
Give me a little more context in what you mean by, like, do you mean like the political energy, or do you mean just
Just if
dragon?
whatever comes to mind, political energy or what the crazy energy that's happening on the planet right now that's affecting everyone. It's really quite intense with that kind of dragon
Yeah.
sign kind of coming up and rattling all of us.
I think empathy goes a long way right now. I think it's
Mm.
really easy for us to say, oh my gosh, me, or this is what I need, this is what I want, and you people are crazy for doing this or voting that way or whatever. But I think if we all take a moment to set our egos aside, set our own beliefs aside, and put ourselves in the other
Mm,
person's shoes and think, okay, well, why are they thinking that? Why are they acting that way? Why are they making these choices? Does it make sense for them, and why? And then I think that softens the topics a little bit because, a lot of times there's good arguments on both sides for whatever's happening. And whether we agree with one side or not, I mean, I think just putting yourself in the other person's shoes goes a long way.
Yeah.
And
mm,
I think that us focusing on what's really important here. Like, is it
mm,
really important that we have the latest trends and the latest phones and the latest cars? Or is it important that we are able to communicate with each other, present ourselves well, and get to work and get our kids off to school every day? Right.
Mhm.
And so stopping, one thing that really drives me crazy is our overconsumption of everything: fashion, electronics, food, just everything that we're over consuming. And it really concerns me about where we're going on earth and what we're doing to this place. And how can we just dial that back, and how
Mm.
do we refocus on what matters most? And it's not the latest and greatest stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we can kind of shift our focus and set our egos aside and realize that we have it so good right now,
Mm.
so that, like, we don't need all this extra stuff, right?
Mm.
One thing I talk about, and I like to pretend like I lean kind of minimalist in my lifestyle, and maybe it's less minimalist than it used to be, but you know, defending simplicity, I think, is super important. It's so easy for us to get caught up
Mm.
in the
mm,
noise of the world, the noise of the marketing, the noise of you need to consume this, you need this to make you happy, you need. and just the modern conveniences that we have that are maybe bad for our health or bad for the earth or bad for our environments, bad for our children. And I think that if we took a moment or a lot of moments, from some people need a lot of moments to get rid of the extraneous noise out of their lives and focus
Mm.
on the simplicity, but it's very hard to defend that simplicity, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's like that
so
stuff
true.
that allows you the real sound to come through. If you can tune out the noise, you actually hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think our world would benefit a lot if we could all kind of defend the simplicity in our lives and get rid of a lot of the extraneous stuff.
I gotta.
Wow.
Soapboxy.
Jenny, that double dragon is coming through with wisdom. I hope everyone's listening to these nuggets of wisdom and writing them down
Mm-hmm.
because they're so everything that you just said is so profound, which does not surprise me at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I have this thing, it's like easy versus simple. There's sometimes two different,
Mm.
right? And I was just having this conversation the other day of the microwave is really easy, right? Put your food in, bing, bing, done. But it's not simple. There's a lot of parts to that. It took a lot to manufacture that. It's not going to last all that long. It's going to go into a landfill, right? It's putting
wow.
electric devices in our house. It's not a simple thing. It's easy, but it's not simple. But you know what is really simple is a frying pan and a gas stove, right? Put your toast on that or put your whatever on that instead and heat it up. And so, yeah, it may be more work because you got to wash the pan. But to me, the simplicity is what's super important there. And so, I have a microwave in my house only because it was built in when I bought this place, but rarely do I use it. And for years, I lived without one because I just didn't want. I wanted simple, not easy.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. And I think it's important too that as I'm listening to you, and I'm guessing other people too, is what that looks like is going to be different for everybody, right?
mhm.
Because
Mhm.
sometimes it is just, tuning things out, turning off the noise, or it might just be decluttering your home or eliminating certain circles of people from your life, or so it can look like many different things. It doesn't need to mean that you're a minimalist or you're not watching TV anymore or anything like that, but taking those little steps
Yeah,
could really pay off.
yeah,
And it leaves space for you then to listen to what's important or pay
mhm.
attention to what's really needed at the time rather than just the noise or the stuff that just gets in your head and fucks
Mhm.
with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I heard this quote a long time ago that was like, when I heard it, I was like, well, that's how I've been living my life. I just didn't know there were words for it. But the
Mm,
quote is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so
mm,
if you get invited to something or someone, there's something in front of you, you could buy it or, if, whatever the choices you're faced with, if it doesn't feel like, hell yes, I want that, I want to do that, I want to experience that, then it's a no. Get rid of it,
mm,
get it out of there. Because it's as was quoted, it's the kind of cool stuff that gets in the way of the stuff that's important to us, right? And
mm-hmm,
so, I found over the years that saying no more than yes has created that space for me to focus on what's important and have space just for that and have downtime. I mean, gosh, over the last year, I have felt guilty because I've had like free time, right? And like as adults, we're taught like don't have free time. Like you're not
mm-hmm,
side hustling and you're not, earning
Mhm.
enough, whatever, right? And I'm just like, wait a minute, like do I have free time because I'm lazy or do I have free time because I tuned out the noise and I got rid of everything that didn't matter to me? So it's
Wow.
been interesting for me to accept lately that, oh, I have free time. I mean, maybe I have been lazy in some ways, but it's mostly because I've tuned out the things that don't matter and I don't bother with the stuff that isn't going to bring the reward that I'm looking for.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
so
I can
cool.
relate to that 100%.
Yeah,
I
me
feel
too.
like I've created such a stress-free life, such a life that gives me that my time. But then I
Yeah.
fall back into the norms and I get stressed out and thinking, oh, I'm not contributing. And then I panic and I freak out. I have a breakdown like, oh, I'm not contributing enough because everybody else leaves the house and goes off to work but
Mhm.
me. And
Mhm.
sometimes I hear the door opening. I might be sitting on the couch watching something or doing something. And as soon as the door opens, I feel like I got to get up and look like I'm busy, you know? It's such
Yeah.
a weird thing how you create that space for yourself, but then, you get these
Guilty
moments
about
of
it.
like, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
contributing in such amazing ways for your family that's just so powerful and impactful,
Yeah.
and creating memories that will be
Mm.
cherished forever, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The
for
rest
sure.
of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate too. I can relate in a different way. It wasn't until a couple of years ago when I started saying no to people and letting people down because I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
"Hey, let's go and do this." I don't want to go. Oh my
God.
gosh, I'm just not interested. Like my friends used to love to go to the bar. Let's go to the bar. Oh my God. Shoot me
Stress.
in the toe. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So
Yeah.
saying no has brought me so much peace to the things that I don't want to do because
Yeah.
I'm not really good at like acting like I'm having a good time. People can tell if I'm having a good time in my face. And so if I'm sitting at the bar with a drink that's really crappy, I'm like, this is gross. I just spent 20 damn dollars on this and I could be home watching Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Like I'm prioritizing the things that I want to do now instead of the things that are crappy that I hated doing in the first place. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's very profound wisdom, Jenny.
I'm an introvert, and it took me a long time to figure out what that really meant for me and how to honor
Mm.
that and fly that flag without being embarrassed about it, or really just like, hey, I just own it. It took me years to figure out how to own it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was a hairstylist for 25 years and everyone has for so many years has assumed, "Oh, I'm Jeremy's totally an extrovert." No. No. In fact, I'm an extreme introvert. Tina's my neighbor. She knows how much I come out of my house and how annoyed I get when people knock on my freaking door. I hate it.
yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah,
And so I'll text
I'll
her,
text him and give him a heads up. You don't answer the
Open
"Someone's at
your
your
door.
door,
door.
Jeremy.
Hide."
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
important. It's important to kind of know your limits and your strengths. And I was a bartender for years as an introvert, but I could do it because I knew I have to be on for the next 6 hours, and I
Mm.
know I'm going to see people come in, they're regulars, and it'll be fine. And I knew I could engage for those 6 hours because it was my time, and then I would make sure that I planned nothing afterwards, and I would go home and drink a beer and take a bath or whatever, and not talk to anybody for a while, and I could recover from that and then give my best out again in the world the next day.
Yeah. I love that. Well, just one last question that is just kind of a fun one that we like to ask guests. Would you rather travel back in time or into the future?
Gosh, you know, I'm so curious. Well, I tend to live in the future a little bit, always kind of worried about the future. So
Mm.
the immediate gratification side of me wants to go to the future and think, okay, well, how did this pan out for me? Do I need to be worried in the present? Do I not need to be worried in the present? What can I do to sort of change the outcome? And the other side of me is conflicted because the past, and it goes back to the easy versus simple. If I could go back 150, 175 years, whatever, like the lives are so intriguing to me because it seems so simple, right?
Mm.
Like one or two outfits. We lived in these simple little homes. We cooked things by fire. And that's so interesting to me, that lifestyle. It's so different than what we have now.
Mm.
And it seems, oh gosh, it'd be so nice to just go back to when things were this simple and there was like a horse that I parked in my yard and took him, out the next day or whatever. But God, it's got to be a hard life, right? That's got to be hard. They didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have,
Mhm.
synthetic jackets to keep them warm. Like, you know, and so part of me is very intrigued by the past because of, I think it makes us appreciate where we are today, and not complain about things. And just it's just a different perspective. I think the curiosity of the future is more fear based for me, but the curiosity of the
Mm.
past is just more. I guess it's just more interesting.
Yeah. Is there
Yeah,
somebody you would wanna meet in either place?
not necessarily. I just
Mhm.
want to observe and look and participate for a while.
There's her rooster sitting
Yeah.
up on
Yep.
top of her perch looking around.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Thanks for your time
You're
and your
welcome.
stories, and I love I have a lot of takeaways from you. I really appreciate
Yeah,
this
me too.
conversation.
Yeah. Jenny, where can we find you? Where can people find you if they're interested in real estate or wanting to find something that's on the market in Phoenix?
Yeah, so a couple websites. You can go to woowooagent.com. This is just like it sounds, WOOWOO agent.com. And that talks a little bit more about the feng shui and how I bring that into the transaction and the client and how we work with their astrology and all that stuff. And the other website is fantasticphoenix.com. That's my main real estate website. You can search the MLS through that website. There's also a hidden link on that site. So it's fantasticphoenix.com/dragon that talks about my newsletter or the dragon newsletter that I put out each year. It has all that same content on there. So you can either get the print version from me or you can just go to my website, fantasticphoenix.com/dragon, and get that same information.
Oh, fun. So people can sign up to get your annual report.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Now, what
I'm
about this?
signed up and I love it. I love looking forward to your report every year. I'm excited when I get it in the mail every year. I love it.
It's just beautiful, just
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful. What about this new project? I mean, I know you're going to come back on, but will there be a link in your Woo Woo Agent page?
There might be, but it's pretty different from what I'm doing now, so I'm not sure I'm going to link it entirely. But it probably won't be up till January, February. So,
Okay.
there may be a little bit before that. Depends on how things pan out. But yeah, it doesn't have an official name yet, and there's a lot of work to do there still. So,
That's exciting. Oh,
That's so
congratulations on that. That's really cool.
thank,
I'm excited.
thank you.
yeah.
So.
Well, any
Well, thank
parting
you so much.
words before we say goodbye?
No, thank you for having me. This is always exciting, fun stuff to talk about, and I didn't mean to get so deep in,
That's
on
what
my
we
Oh,
like.
we love it.
soapbox. It's just kind of how I see the world. But yeah, thank you for having me. And anytime you want to talk again, I'm here. And if anyone has any questions, of course, they're free to reach out to me and chat more. And yeah,
Mm, thank you for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny.
thank you.
Wasn't that an awesome discussion that we just had with Jenny?
I love her.
I love her. I love her. We just wanted to jump on here and do a little bit of a follow-up and talk a little bit more about feng shui when it comes to real estate. We were talking about how, in Jenny's industry, there's a lot of people that are more interested than the real estate end of things, more so than the feng shui end of things.
Mhm,
And we
mhm.
just wanted to kind of briefly get in here and talk about that for just a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, because I think people are, you know, I think you're missing an opportunity to
Mhm.
make the home selling and buying experience the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
Because if you just sign up with a realtor, they're going to take you down their path, the way
Yeah.
they do things.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that because I
No.
don't like that world. I
Mhm.
don't like the negotiating and the feeling that somebody's going to try to screw you over and all of that. I want to be in control of how this transaction, this move, this transition, how it plays out. And I that's one of the biggest gifts of feng shui to me is doing that. It's such a
Yeah.
powerful tool that people are missing out on.
Yeah, and especially since Jenny offers both. Like,
It's such a
that is
gift.
such a rare gift that she
Mhm.
offers because she isn't going to take you down that road. She's gonna take you down a road of, "Okay, she's able to kind of look at your energy and look at your
Mhm.
information and really get to know you. She'll know right away when you're walking through a house if it's for you or not. Like she's that
Mhm.
intuitive. And so
Mhm.
she's going to steer you down these directions that are going to be really good and benefit you because she knows what she's doing. She understands uh, all of the feng shui of the house that she's taking you through. She's going to
Mhm.
see some of the warning things that need to be addressed before you buy the house. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can remember when about a year or so after I met you, me and Toshi were getting ready to, buy a house. We wanted to find a place that would work a little bit better for us. We were living in a a 1,100 square foot condo that we were outgrowing really quickly.
And it was
And
kind
so,
of partly underground, kinda
well,
basement-y,
it was one
and
of those 1970 split levels.
okay.
So the main floor was kind of in a basement, which I really
That's
loved.
right.
I have
Mhm,
kind of cavey animals, like, I've got a
mhm.
snake, a rabbit, and a rat, and they all like to kind of hide out, and that's where I spent most of my time was down on the main floor,
That's right.
and then upstairs was 2 bedrooms and a bathroom,
Okay.
and we quickly found out after we started living together that this wasn't going to be a large enough space for us and all of our stuff. So you kind of gave me a brief synopsis as to, in terms of landform feng shui, what to be looking for in a piece of real estate because we just rented an apartment after we moved out of that condo. And I spent a good year looking for real estate opportunities. And when I asked you the question, you said, now please feel free to reach out to me and let me know if you have any questions about land or places that you're going to go look at. And boy, I don't think you knew what you were getting yourself into because you give me an inch, I'll take a mile. And
It was so
I
funny.
I texted you nearly every morning. I looked at a new place today. What do you think?
Mhm, yeah.
And she'd be like, what the fuck are you even thinking? Like, this is terrible. Like, why would you even be attracted to this place? Because I just wanted to get out of the apartment and
Oh,
into some.
you were so desperate, and you had special requests, right? You wanted to have your salon on a lower
Mhm.
level and then live
Yep.
up above, and I remember you sent me a property, and I think it was kind of a triangle-shaped property, and I don't know if they were planning on developing, but I think there was a train going this way, and a train going this way, and a road going this way,
Yeah.
and I thought, "You're
Yeah.
gonna be living in a vortex. You guys your
Mhm.
heads will be spinning, people won't know how to find you." It was
Yeah.
in the most awkward place, and I learned a lot from the
Okay,
stuff that
good.
you would send me because it's like, "Okay, well, what I gotta really look at this and, and describe why." Like, I can look at something like Jenny can and go, "No, this isn't right," but
No,
to be
this
able
is
to
right.
say why.
Yeah. Well, that specific instance, I remember after, we sent you pictures, we went down
Mhm,
it was downtown Salt Lake City,
mhm,
in kind of a well, back then, there wasn't much there. There were a few bars and stuff like that.
and now it's like a homeless community.
Well, actually, they built a huge, huge apartment complex there.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, we should go
And yeah, it's an interesting neighborhood now because now it's really kind of condensed and really kind of a
mm.
lot of people, high volume area. But we were thinking of just buying the land because it was really cheap. It was just kind of a triangle, but literally it was like right next to the train tracks. And you texted me and you said, I just looked at the Google Earth and I'm getting dizzy. Do you really want to live that close to the train track? And I thought, oh my gosh, because the street was going this way and the train track was going this way. And you said, it's just going to feel like you're
Mm.
spinning. And you're like, I'm getting dizzy. I can't talk about this anymore. so, so
I kind of feel
you,
mean when I'm giving feedback, but I think
no,
what it taught you is what I saw over the year, the properties that you were sending me, you could tell that I could tell that you were catching on. Like, you hadn't done the feng shui training yet, but you was like, "Oh, now I know not to look for a train track," or, "Now I know not to look for a one-way street," or to
yeah,
make sure that the hill's on the right side, not the left side. And so I
yeah.
could see through the year how your perspective was changing, and you guys
Mhm.
ended up in such a great place at the time.
Well, it was perfect because actually, that's the first place I found, but we just
That
weren't in a financial situation to get that place, and over that year, they dropped the price $35,000.
mm,
And then, we were just driving past it one day, and there was they had just taken a 8 by 11 piece of paper that said "For sale," and put it in the side window. And I said, look, there's a for sale sign. So we called the number And 24 hours later, we were under contract.
Oh
And
my
it
god.
was the place that I had found a year and a half before that, that I was like,
Mm,
"I've gotta live in this place." And we got it, and it was perfect at the time because it was a 3-level, condo or a townhouse. It was
mhm,
it was a corner lot, and, the bottom floor was my salon. I was able
mhm.
to work from home, and it fulfilled all of our needs, that
Yeah.
everything. And it was interesting, shortly after we got into that place, I had you come back and feng shui it, and you were like, "You're really good at this. You need to take my training." And I was like, "Okay." So, I took your training after that, but I was able to get kind of a year-long kind of, uh, education just by
Mm,
working with you, and you taking my phone calls and you taking my text messages. And I'm glad that you learned something too, because you were able to
mhm.
kind of go through all of these different case studies to see
I
what was going on.
absolutely did. In fact, I think there's still a couple of the pictures that you sent me that are still in my
In
slideshow for my
training,
current
yeah.
students. Yeah, and, when we talk about, this to me, when just looking at the positioning of the property in its relationship to other properties and functions and like rivers or mountains or train tracks or roads, lakes, all of that. It's such an important it's a great place to invest your time right up front. And that's I know what Jenny does because I can just check things off and say, no, don't even bother going to this place. It doesn't have the
Mhm,
right landform. You can shorten your list of the houses that you're interested in because landform, we can't change it.
mm-mm,
It's now that we can make some adjustments, but we can't change what the neighbor's house, the size of it, um, we can't, plant 50-foot trees right away. We can't have the city redirect the traffic flow or, decrease the speed limit. There's so many things that we can't change to the environment that if it's just one of those things that to me is that important that if we overlook that and you buy a house because you like the inside, Ah, we're gonna struggle. We're gonna have to
mhm,
spend a lot of money and a lot of time and energy on the inside, and it may never remedy it,
yeah,
the landform issues that
mhm,
that are out there. And I think if you're listening to this, the next time you drive through your neighborhood or your community, look at the buildings or the homes that are struggling, the businesses that are sitting empty, that have high
mhm,
turnover, that just don't do well, it's probably a landform issue.
mhm,
And, you know, a lot of times those businesses, somebody else will move in, they'll fail. Somebody else will
yeah,
move in. It's a never ending thing. And so no matter what happens inside, it's not going to fix it. And
yeah,
that's a big, big deal. And that's a free service I offer to all my clients. If you're purchasing a home, let me help you at least find the right home because I
yeah,
can do that from my office
yeah.
and Google
Yeah,
it.
and you definitely did multiple times for me,
Mhm,
um, and it was a matter of, just taking a look at what's going on. What's going on with the power lines? What's going on? Where are the
mhm,
schools? Where are the cemeteries? Where
mhm,
where are the bodies of water? Like, all of those things that you're taking into consideration when you're looking for real estate is
mhm.
really important. So,
It really is.
hiring a feng shui consultant is really, and especially someone like Jenny, is really going to make the process of finding where you're supposed to be living so much easier.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And if you're a realtor, you know, maybe finding a feng shui practitioner to work with or getting that training under
Mhm.
your belt, would be beneficial. And you can work like Jenny. It doesn't have to be out in the open, but it can be
Yeah.
something that really changes the experience that people have with you. Because I love like what Jenny said about, writing that letter of intention. It's like, how do you want this sale to go? And you
Yeah.
place it in the Northwest where it's the
Yep.
helpful people sector because you need
Yeah.
helpful people. You need earth's angels and heaven's angels or whatever to come in and help you find that place.
Mhm.
Um, Knowing those little tricks, there's specific sell your house cures that are
Mhm.
very powerful that I've used year after year. I have a
Yeah.
client that I've been a part of a couple projects and selling several houses, and that cure always moves the needle and
Yeah.
it's quick. And I know the
Yeah.
market's different these days. I know for a while, there was multiple cash offers and it was way
Mhm.
above listing price and you had to just jump on things. I know
Mhm.
things are kind of different, but um, I think I don't know about you, Jeremy. I think when I have a client who's trying to sell a house that and it's not selling, the biggest issue is they're not letting go for whatever reason.
Totally. Totally.
Mhm.
And I've also found that it's important to kind of see, um, the other thing that I've noticed, I love that you just said that, is not letting go. Um, Also, I think that there's also been times in my life when it's come to real estate where I've wanted to push it too quickly.
Mm.
I wanted to be out of this house quicker than it was ready to, or I wanna get
Mm.
into a house quicker than it's ready for,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
another thing that we can do as astrologers is we can look at your chart to look at the timing. I can look at your
Mm.
Western astrology chart and I can find out if there's any planets lighting up your fourth house. The fourth house rules real estate and home. So we
Oh.
can really look at the timing of that to see, are you okay? Is there something that you need to let go of so that you can release that so that the house can sell?
Mhm.
Is it just a matter of waiting 6 or 7 months and hitting the
Mm.
next wave of, waiting until spring when the real estate market starts to boom again? Like,
Mhm.
there are so many different things that we can take into consideration to help you in your real estate journey to kind of make sure that the timing is spot on. Because
Mhm.
sometimes, like, for example, with your move just recently,
Mhm.
your chart was all of the stars were aligned for you guys to get
Mhm.
that place, and it did.
Yeah.
It just went boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, it
So
was
I like
crazy.
to look at people's charts to see, is the universe gonna support this move in an easy way, or are there some mountains that you're gonna have to climb in finding the right place?
Yeah, and I understand that some people are on a time crunch and that kind of thing, but if you
Yeah.
have the ability to wait, if you have that, it's okay, let's just it goes smoother. You're not hitting walls. The
Mhm.
frustration isn't there. It's a gentler experience.
Yeah.
It really can be um, a really lovely experience to
Yeah.
work with a realtor that you enjoy. And I don't know, because I've heard so many nightmare stories about people who
I know too.
buy and sell, and oh man, it does not have to be that way, and we don't have to give in to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really, yeah. So you're talking about the fourth house has to do with
Mhm.
real estate. Is there
Yeah.
an a zodiac sign or
Yes,
anything?
absolutely. So the natural ruler of the 4th house is Cancer. Cancer is the sign
Mm,
of the mother, the nurturer, the one that shows where your emotional foundation is. So
okay.
not only can you look to your 4th house to find out more information about it, also look at the sign that's connected to your 4th house, but then also take a look at your chart and find the sign of Cancer. So a really great
Mm,
example is your chart, Tina. Cancer energy shows up in your sixth house of occupation and health. And what
mm.
I find interesting about that is you're a feng shui consultant for your work. I mean, come
That's pretty
on.
funny.
You can't make this shit up, right?
No.
So, Cancer energy in my chart shows up in the eighth house of death, rebirth, and transformation in the occult. So, I
Mm,
feel I'm kind of a homebody, and I feel my biggest transformations at home. So
Mm,
you can really start to understand um, how you connect to a sense of home, how you connect to real estate. Another place that you can look in your chart is where your moon is found and what
mm,
house your moon is in. Your moon is in the 10th house of fate, destiny, and what you came here to do with your life. So,
mm,
career is where you feel at home. You feel
okay.
at home in career. And interestingly enough, you work from home too. So, it's
Mhm.
like your chart supports that energy, right?
Yeah.
So, in my chart, Cancer is the 8th house, and my moon is also in the 8th house.
Mm,
So, death, rebirth, and transformation. And in my Eastern chart, I'm a snake. I was born the year of the snake. So, my whole life has been about shedding a skin and
mhm.
transforming, and that's my sweet spot. That's where I'm at home.
Yeah. So how do you've lived in this house for what, 2.5 years?
2 years. In fact, this yeah, yeah. No, it'll be 2 years in a week.
Oh,
It'll be
that's
2
it.
years.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, because since I've known you, this is the 4th place I think you've lived?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is.
how long do you plan on staying in this house?
We don't know. Here's the thing, we really love this house.
Mhm, it's beautiful.
Um, it's great. It's a little bigger than we anticipated,
Mm,
but we're just gonna see what happens because we're just now, after 2 years, connecting to the neighborhood, the
mm,
area. And now that
mm,
you live in the neighborhood, that really has helped us to want to stay here.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, it's we've never lived in a house before. We've always lived in like an apartment or a townhouse. So there's a lot more responsibilities that come with living in a home. But I think we prefer living in a house more than a townhouse.
mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know. We're just going to be open to what happens and see what
Mhm.
where the universe takes us. But I right for right now, we're here.
You're
We wanna stay here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
us too. Yeah, we made a 5-year commitment with everybody, so
Yeah.
we'll see we'll see what
Well, and
happens.
you've got a full house.
Yeah,
It's just me and Tosh over here.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so, like, with your sensitivities, I know this is kinda off topic, with your dog I mean, all of your charts are really sensitive. Your dog,
Yep,
rat, rabbit, snake.
yep.
You've talked about finishing your basement and renting it
Oh, yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I couldn't do
Um,
that. I mean, our basement's
you're
finished and
doing
it's an
yeah.
apartment, but it's family down there.
Yeah, yeah. I think that we would probably rent it out to someone that we know and that we're
Mm,
comfortable with, rather
mhm,
than renting it to a stranger, or
mhm,
we would just finish the basement and use it.
mhm.
My husband's an artist, so it's very possible that we could just finish the basement and make that his art studio.
Yeah, that would be
So
cool.
there's so many different things that we could use. It's what's kind of interesting is all of my animals, they like to be in the basement. So
Mhm.
I would love to just finish the basement and make that whole area of the house mine.
That would be cool.
I would love it.
Oh
I
my
would love that.
gosh. Yeah.
Because I spend a majority of the time on the main floor and upstairs, and I yeah, there's a part of me that craves being in kind of a
Mhm.
more concealed space.
I know
That's
that
all.
firsthand 'cause, last year when we had our practitioners retreat, we had this 16,000 square foot home, and everybody had their own bedroom, and there
Uh-huh.
was one bedroom in the basement, and Jeremy immediately, "That's mine."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he would have fought you for it.
Yeah, and it was the smallest
Mhm.
bedroom too. I
Yeah.
wanted the smaller space. I've been to multiple retreats in my life, and if there's ever a space under the stairs, I'll take it. I bring my air mattress, I blow that thing up, and I'll sleep under the stairs because I just want my own
Mhm.
space.
Yeah.
I prefer being on my own, so
That
Yeah,
retreat was fun because when everybody as people were showing up, I think there was 13 of us, as people were
yeah,
showing up and I was kind of giving them a tour of the house and they were picking their bedroom because 'cause we're all Feng Shui practitioners. And so everybody's trying to figure out what direction is the bed. And I would people were like, "Is it okay if I take this mirror off the wall and tuck it behind the door?" I'm like, "Yeah, as long as you put it back when we leave." People were moving stuff around,
yeah,
trying to just
yeah.
Feng Shui their space for the weekend.
Yeah,
It
I
was a
had a
lot of fun.
huge mirror, a floor to ceiling mirror,
Oh, you
and it
did?
was on a stand, and I just put it in the walk-in closet because I was like, "Okay, well, that's easy
Yeah.
fix." Yeah,
So, I don't know what else to say about real estate. It's nothing that I'm really super familiar with, but I know Jenny, offered, you know, her to reach out to her if you have any questions or reach out to
shoot.
us, because
Yeah,
we've definitely worked in with realtors, with people who are buying and selling property, business and home. My
yeah,
goodness, you would wanna make sure that your business has good landform, who,
yeah,
right off the bat.
mhm,
That's the thing that, so many of these poor businesses that are struggling, that building
mhm,
that's been sitting empty, they dropped the price on it. So it's like,
mhm.
"Oh, that's a great deal, so I'm gonna buy that." Well, if 15 other businesses have failed before you move in, do you think
There's
it's gonna
something
be any
off.
different? Yeah, there's something
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, when I did my certification, part of my final project, I found a business in Murray that, since I had lived where we had lived for I had lived in that townhouse for 10 years, and in 10 years, there was a new business every single year that would move in there.
Mm,
It's the same thing now. It's
mm,
that hasn't shifted. There's been a new business in there consistently every
wow.
year, so, yeah.
Mm, bless you.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's crazy to see these developers, just pick a chunk of property and put something on it without those other considerations of,
Yeah.
the future of people's businesses. They say
Mhm.
small businesses, typically fail within the first year or two. And I think if you're relying on a brick and mortar, I think that's a huge reason why.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
is is that reason? And if you're working from home, it could be partially due to your own landform.
Mhm.
Poor landform is going to show up as money loss, health crisis, relationship failures, just a complete drain of your energy.
Yeah.
Um, so it's important information to consider. But
Yep.
we're sure grateful for Jenny
Yeah.
coming in and sharing with us.
Mhm.
So
I
thanks.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and thanks for
this has
shining a
been a
light.
good conversation.
Yeah. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.